Welcome back to the Foundry. I'm joined here today by my beautiful KLX650R. And believe it or not, this unicorn was born in 1993. And for the three of you who watch this channel, you know that I recently dug it out of my warehouse after a 12-year hiatus and went over it and fixed everything from front to back, or so I thought. So that is the what. Now for the question you've probably asked yourself numerous times over the course of your life. Why? Why am I here? I'm here today because I have a no start condition. You see, this is a one kick bike. That means it starts on the first kick every time. If it doesn't start on the first kick, you know you have problems. Now, being a 650, there's only so many times I can kick this thing before I reach the point of disgust. And I say, screw it. I don't even feel like riding anymore. And that's the point I have reached after missing an incredible, rare opportunity for a glorious ride. So rather than wallow in jealousy and the inevitable rage that will accompany it, I have resolved to not let this happen again. So I think we should roll this into the clean room where there's air conditioning and get to the bottom of it. Usually when you have a crank no start issue, it's indicative of either a fuel issue or a spark issue. And in this case, I have to remove the fuel tank to access the spark plug. So I think I'm going to start on the fuel side first. So this is why I installed a clear fuel filter so I could kind of see what's going on. In this case, it looks like the fuel filter is completely full. Gas valve's not in position, but that doesn't necessarily tell me that fuel is actually getting through the filter. Now, I didn't see any obstructions through the clear plastic, so what I went ahead and did was I unhooked the fuel line from the carburetor, and I've got a steady flow of fuel, so I know the filter is not the cause of the issue. Now, over here on this side, I've got the bowl drain for the carburetor. Presumeretically, if I loosen this bowl drain, I should see gas running out underneath the machine out of the overflow tube or hose. And I've got the screw almost all the way out and I haven't seen a drop of fuel anywhere. So it should just be flooding out of there. So that's weird. So I've got fuel getting through the filter to the carburetor, but the carburetor's empty. So there's either an obstruction where the fuel line connects to the carburetor, there's a fitting there, there's either an obstruction there, or the needle valve is stuck closed. Now there's one more thing I can check before I go crazy with dismantling and pulling the carburetor and all that. It could be a vent issue. If the carburetor is not venting properly or the fuel system itself, it may not allow for the proper flow. Now, I believe this vent up here for my tank is in good shape because when I unhooked the fuel line, I had fuel flowing out. That would not be the case if this was stopped up. So I'm going to take the vent for the carburetor, which is right here. I'm going to blow through it. I can blow through it freely. So the vent is not the issue. I went ahead and pulled the seat and the air scoops, and right now I'm removing the tank so we can get down to the heart of the matter. Well, this is really strange. Before I removed the tank, I gave the carburetor bowl the old screwdriver handle method. I tapped on it thinking, you know, well, if the float is stuck, you know, typically you do that if the float is stuck open. In this case, apparently it's stuck closed, which is kind of unusual, but whatever. So then with the fuel line removed, I took this air blower, hooked it up to the fuel line, and I thought, well, if I apply a little bit of compressed air, I should be able to you know, get the needle valve free. So I started with a low, you know, that needle valve is designed to overcome, I think about, I don't know, 10 PSI maybe. So I started at 15 PSI, nothing. So I thought, I bumped it up to 30, nothing. Bumped it up to 50, nothing. And I don't want the carburetor to explode or the needle shoot through it like a bullet or rupture the diaphragm. So I didn't want to get too crazy, but I went a little nuts and I put 125 PSI on this airline directly into the carburetor in the fuel channel, and nothing. It will not dislodge that float. So now I'm just super curious to get in this thing and figure out what is going on. Carburetor is very clean. I was pretty thorough when I cleaned it before, and it hadn't accumulated any more junk on the last couple of rides. We're fixing to see what is going on with this needle valve. It is stuck in the seat. Man. See if I can get it out of there. I've already tried compressed air on the machine. That thing is in there. I'm going to remove the little spring here so we do not damage it. That would not be good. So there we go. I'm going to try to twist it just like so. That'll work it loose like that. So it would appear the valve portion of this needle is not what is sticking. If you remember the previous video when I cleaned this carburetor, when we did our bike restoration, polished that seat really well. So the seat itself is in good shape. The seat portion of the needle is in good shape. What is getting us here apparently is the body of the needle. It has these ridges out here. These are guides. It slides down in the seat, and that holds it perfectly aligned so that the tip can seat where it's supposed to, completely straight. And there appears to be a little bit of buildup. Man, it's not much, but there's a little bit of buildup on the body of the needle, and it's getting hung on the sides of the seat. So the needle itself is still in good shape. It's got good spring tension here on this little button. The tip's in good shape. So what I'm going to do is take a soft bristled wire brush, and I'm going to clean and polish the body of the needle. And I'm going to take a Q-tip with a little bit of rubbing compound, chuck it in the drill, and go around the sides of the seat. That way everything is polished, completely clean. And hopefully that solves the problem. I didn't see anything else wrong with it. The floats themselves are in good shape. Nothing's bent. Nothing was really hung up. As far as the floats go, it was all with the needle and seat. That really cleaned the body of that needle very good. It's almost polished. Now that we got the needle clean, time to clean the seat. Now ideally, I would like to use a brush like this. I don't have one that's the right diameter, so that's unfortunate. So what I'm going to do, I put some valve lapping compound on this cotton swab, chucked it in the drill, and I'm just going to run it around the outside of that seat. I can't put much pressure on it or the cotton swab will bend, so I'm not going to take too much material off of the seat. All this is pretty much going to do is clean it, which is what I'm after. I don't know if I can gain focus with the camera, but if you look down in there, that is super clean, smooth, and shining. So between that and the needle being polished up, I don't think we're going to have any more problem with it sticking anymore. All right, we have good function of the needle valve. It's operating smoothly in the seat. So, and I removed any sign of any kind of varnish. So I think what was probably going on was I had added some Berryman to the fuel because there was some varnish in the tank, and you know, the thing had sat up for so long. I think it was releasing some varnish off of that needle body, and it was just hanging it up in there. But we seem to have solved that, hopefully. Yeah, so if you don't have any lapping compound, valve lapping compound, you might pick some up. If you clean carburetors a lot, it's super handy for cleaning those seats. In this case, I'm using Clover compound. It's from my father or grandfather's era, 60s or 70s. And you got fine in this container and coarse on this side. And this is very handy to have around the shop. I got it slung back together. I hadn't tried to start it yet. I wanted to go over a couple little things. Anytime you're in a machine doing a repair, something of this nature, it's usually, unless you're in like a real big time crunch, it's a good idea to go ahead and tidy up some things if you notice something out of place. So in this case, my idle adjustment was, the bracket for it was up here, and I believe that was incorrect. So I lowered it down here where it's supposed to be. I probably did that years ago when I put the engine together, but fuel filters, all this is buttoned up really well. And on this side, I went ahead and spent some time really fine tuning the throttle cables. I don't know if you can see them up in there, but it's got a dual throttle cable setup. What I noticed on my last ride was the throttle was hanging a little bit, just a little bit off idle. And so it was, you know, gave the feeling that it was just idled up too high, and I kept trying to idle it down and it wouldn't respond until I snapped the throttle. It was just kind of really annoying. And what I determined is my throttle cables were out of adjustment just slightly, so I worked on those. And that ticking sound is the throttle coming back and hitting the stop screw, which is connected to the idle adjustment. And that's what you want to have happen. Before, it was just stopping just short of that idle screw, and you had to actually physically move the throttle to get it back down to the correct idle. So I went ahead and did that, and while I was here, I made a little adjustment on the preload of the monoshock. It's kind of stiff, and whoever had this before me must have been a fat boy, because he had that monoshock maxed out. This is a 650. You got to be a big boy to need to max out the shock on it, because it's got a tremendously strong shock. So I had it adjusted what I thought was about halfway, and I actually got to looking and could see the factory setting on it, where the nuts were originally, and I kind of moved it back toward that, and it feels a little bit better. So with all that, also, for me, the position of the levers is pretty important. This clutch here is kind of hard to pull, and so I moved the clamp out on this side of the switch here to move the lever in a little bit more, so that my hand position is going to be on the outside of it, which makes it easier to pull than if your hand is on, you know, more toward the inside of it. Also, the angle. I don't like my wrist being cocked up like this. I like it just at a normal, comfortable resting spot. And that's especially handy when you're standing up. Same goes for this side. I've got a custom modified from a crash brake lever. It's a 2-finger. Give it the old 2 fingers. Perfect. All right, so now for the moment of truth. I probably shouldn't have put it all together until I knew for certain that it ran, but I was just too excited. So let's see if it'll fire up. Gas valve's on. Give it a little choke. Gas valve's been on for a minute, so the carburetor should be full by now. Now typically I don't have to give it any throttle. First kick. high idles from the choke being on. These bikes are a little bit, they're a little bit cold natured. Idles, very good. Choke is completely off now. Very snappy throttle response. It's not hanging off idle. Snapping right back where it's supposed to. Excellent. Check for any leaks. Everything's dry, nothing's dripping out of the overflow. So the needle valve is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. It's not hanging open or closed. No flooding. Perfect. Also adjusted the air pressure in the tires a little bit. I think I had a little too much air in them. Between that and the shock should contribute to a little better ride quality. I know obviously if I was racing, I'd want everything, not the tires, but I'd want the suspension really stiff. But for the trail riding that I do, plus I'm old, so I kind of like a little more comfortable ride. What an overall beautiful bike. The Malibu Ken colors notwithstanding, this is one of my favorite Kawasaki generations, the early to mid 90s. I like the air scoops, the headlight shroud. I just think it was a really good looking machine. And with that, I'll wrap this one up right here. I'd really like to do a riding video. I've got some GoPro mounts and stuff. I could probably do one, but I don't know if people watch riding videos. Well, they're not watching these either for that matter, so I guess I can make a video about whatever I want. But if I catch a cooler than normal day, I might go ahead and do another ride video. But you know, I live in the armpit of the South. It is miserably hot, miserably humid. So I don't usually ride during the summer. My riding season's like January to April, so it doesn't really interfere with any hunting seasons or anything like that. And that's why I was so disappointed when I missed that ride the other day because my bike wouldn't start, because it's so rare to get a nice, cool, breezy day this time of year. Whatever the case, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next one.